Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mind the Moment in Everyday Life. Each month, we take a theme and we explore how mindfulness can support us in bringing that theme to life in our everyday lives. Our theme for this month of March is the hunger habit, in which we'll be exploring a neuroscience-based approach to healthier eating. I'm your host, John Roberts, from Living Well Community, your home for interactive virtual wellness classes and on-demand programming created and curated by Point 32 Health and its family of companies, including Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. Now, I'm thrilled to be joined all this month by your mindfulness guide, Kell Julliard. Welcome, Kell. Wonderful to see you as always.
Great to be with you and John and with everyone. Really happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, Kell, over the next few sessions here, we'll be getting to know you quite well as a teacher of mindfulness. But right now, I'd love to get to know you a little bit better as a person. If I may ask you, what is one food that you think you could probably eat every day and never get tired of it? Now, Kell, while you're thinking, folks, we'd love for you to be a part of this conversation as well. So please open up the chat. Let us know, what is that one food that you think you could probably eat every day and never get tired of it? And also feel free to drop into the chat any other questions or comments you may have, either now or at any point during today's program. So, Kell, what do you think? What is that one food that you just couldn't get tired of if you tried?
Well, pondering this question, I'm thinking, there are more generic categories and then there are more specific, but I think I do eat bread virtually every day, and I love bread. Of course, chocolate came to mind, and I do think I could eat chocolate every day. But I'm wondering, John, are those categories too broad? Are they what you have in mind?
Well, Kel, I'm just saying, folks are responding quite vividly here with pasta, mashed potatoes, more bread, devil dogs, chocolate, burgers, strawberries. Now, Kel, I'm glad somebody said burgers because I was going to be embarrassed because I was raised in Iowa, which has a very red meat forward cuisine, and for me, the platonic ideal of deliciousness remains, like it or not, the bacon cheeseburger. I actually met a man at a farmer's market in Iowa last summer who served me a cheeseburger at 8 o'clock in the morning out of a booth. So that's how we do it there. We have avocado, strawberries, peaches, salmon avocado rolls. That sounds very fancy. Greek yogurt, sourdough bread. Kel, this is I think people are on the bread side with you.
Yeah, yeah, right. We've got a lot of votes for bread.
Now, Kel, it's my understanding that in these sessions, uh, we'll be talking about how we relate to food and eating, but that there's both the why and the how, and all of it sort of hinges on this understanding of how our brains work. So I'm wondering, I know there's a lot to unpack here. I wonder if you can just get us started on where we're going to be starting and where we're going to be headed in this exploration of food.
So, first of all, the big picture, we're basing all of this on the work of Jud Brewer, who's a MD, PhD, both a clinician and also an NIH-funded researcher in the meditation, mindfulness, and also around habit formation. And a lot of what we do in terms of eating and through our lives is related to habits. And many of those habits serve us or they don't. So as we journey through life, it's helpful to identify, is this habit still serving me? And if not, how do I move out of that habit? And of course, some habits are relatively easy to move out of, and some are very difficult to change or seem like they are. So often our eating patterns are in the category of habits being very difficult to change. So it's really a powerful thing, actually, to bring contemporary neuroscience to bear on this in a way that's both practical and simple that we can apply in our daily lives. So that's really the goal for these three sessions, is to not only understand that, but know how to apply it in our day-to-day lives around our eating. So the way Judd begins is by asking, what is your goal for being here today? What is it around eating healthier, around eating more mindfully? Is there a way that you can formulate that goal? And that's going to really be beneficial over these 3 sessions. If you keep that goal in mind and apply the principles and practices that we'll be talking about to that particular goal. So I'm going to share mine. Uh, which is, I've been a member of the Clean Plate Club for a very long time. I really don't like leaving food on my plate. That comes from my dad very clearly. He was very explicit about that. And normally I just take the amount that I think I will enjoy eating, and then I clean my plate and it's fine. But sometimes there's a little more food than I actually want. And I'd really like to move further out of that pattern of having to eat that food just because it's on my plate, whether I want it or not. So it'd be great, anybody who's willing to do this, to put your goal in the chat, just so people can see the range of goals. There are just so many goals that you could have around eating healthier, eating in a way that just serves your life, making for a happier life. And while you're doing that, I'd like to move into an area around the way we often approach this, and that is through willpower. And there's actually been a lot of research done on willpower itself and willpower in habit change. And basically, it's not to say willpower isn't a good thing. That ability to control our own actions, our emotions, our urges, to be able to just stop what we want to stop. In eating, this is often associated with the calories in, calories out approach, that we know if we take a lot of calories in, that's going to start putting on weight. It may result in physical feelings of sluggishness, of discomfort. But that just stop it strategy often doesn't work. Part of why it doesn't work is what you can't have. As human beings, we often want more of. So by setting this thing up that we can no longer have, that actually brings it to mind and feeds the urge to indulge in it. So that's one problem. The other problem is that willpower doesn't increase with practice. And based on that, it's also easily depleted. So when you're hungry, you're tired, you're triggered emotionally, you've had a bad day, that's when your willpower is at its lowest, but when you need it the most in terms of habit change around eating. So John, any goals that you want to share that people have put in the chat?
Yes, indeed. So someone is saying that this is not exactly a goal, but that they hate wasting food, and that that sometimes that drives their wanting to clean the plates, as it were. So maybe that's something to work with. Being
Yeah.
happy with eating a bit less for a healthier body. Continue to eat in moderation, not depriving themselves of anything, but actually slowing down, really tasting the food while eating. Somebody says they would like better control over emotional eating. And somebody says in the last 2 months, their goal was to utilize all the ingredients in their fridge so that they don't throw out anything that spoils or gets goes past the expiration date. So those are wonderful goals, I think, Kel.
Yeah,
And
they're
do
outstanding.
those fit in to what you think we'll be covering?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the wonderful thing about this approach is that it actually um, works with any kind of habit in any area of our life. So anything that's based on habit. It's basically, what's a habit? It's something we do without having to make a decision. So it's sort of like things we do automatically, like after breakfast, I just brush and floss my teeth. It's something that I've done for many years. I don't have to think about it. Breakfast is done. I find myself, in the bathroom flossing my teeth. Um, it's not a decision that I need to make. So, but from the neuroscience point of view, I'd like to share a little bit more about the way neuroscientists look at habits, how they and what they call the habit loop. This is the habit loop. If you go to drjud.com, you can actually download a worksheet that looks just like this, so you can fill it in as you begin to identify habits. So typically, if we look at the lower left-hand circle, a habit starts with a trigger, a thought, an emotion, a smell. For me, it was finishing breakfast. The behavior, flossing my teeth. The result, my mouth feels cleaner. When I go to the dentist, long-term result, no cavities. The dentist, the oral hygienist tell me what a great job I'm doing. And being an approval seeker, I like that. So this habit loop is a really important tool, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So I'd like to talk about behaviors first. Now, around eating, if we look at some of the behaviors that we might want to change, and that's what we're really focusing on over these 3 sessions. So maybe, you want to have a potato chip, but you find you've eaten the whole bag. You're snacking, late in the afternoon, so you're not hungry when you're ready to eat dinner. For me, eating everything on my plate. Some of the other habits that might change as a result of this approach: biting your nails, judging yourself, worrying, smoking, snapping at family members when you're in a bad mood. These are all habits with triggers. So some examples of habits that we might want to change. So a trigger can be a thought, an emotion, something in the environment. So here's some examples of triggers. We're stressed out after a long day. We're irritated about something. We're feeling lonely. We're feeling bored. Or they can be situations or places. We see the package of potato chips on the counter. We drive by a fast food restaurant. We get yelled at by our boss and need something to sort of just make ourselves feel better. So these are examples of typical triggers for habits around eating. And then the results circle, what actually happens as a result of the behavior, of the habit itself. So short term, we often feel better. I'm bored or I'm anxious, I'm snacking, I have the momentary distraction, I feel better. But then a little bit later, because now I've overeaten, I'm feeling sluggish, I might be tired, my stomach might be uncomfortable if I've snacked on something that's not so great. But a bigger issue often is that the cause for the boredom has not been addressed. So it just comes back. And what do we do with that? There it is again. And so we're running around in these habit loops, trying to sort of medicate ourselves with these behaviors, but not very successfully. One more thing before we dive into our practice, which we really need to do, is to talk about, Dr. Brewer has the idea of gears, of how we start out in first gear. And that's what we're doing today, just like driving a car. We don't start out in third gear or we'll stall the car. So first gear is just being aware of your habit loops, just knowing you're in a loop. What is the trigger? What is the habit? And what does it feel like afterwards? So this meditation is really around curiosity. It's about how we bring a curious awareness to our lives, to what's going on in the moment. And this is at the heart of mindfulness. So it's a basic mindfulness practice. So I'm going to suggest that you find a posture that's comfortable, that's relaxed, and yet that supports you in being present and aware. So just adjust yourself in your chair. You can stand up, you can lie down, whatever's right for you. Typically, you want your spine to be comfortably upright and your body at ease. And just take a moment to appreciate that you're aware and alive here and now. You're just here in this moment, present, letting yourself relax, letting go of doing, coming into just being here and now. Maybe you notice body sensations of connected with sitting in the chair. You can hear the sound of my voice. Maybe you're aware of thoughts and feelings. Whatever it is, just be present with that for a moment. Now I'm going to invite you to tune into the sounds in your environment. There's the sound of my voice. There may be sounds outside or even in the room that you're in. Maybe even sounds connected with your breath. And just hear them as though you were hearing for the first time. No preconceptions, just get curious about the actual quality of the sounds themselves. You don't have to analyze the sound. Just experience the richness of the sound in your world at this moment. Now, I'm going to invite you to bring awareness now to body sensations. Again, as though you were experiencing them for the first time. If you tune into the feeling of your feet, are they warm? Are they cool? What do your socks and shoes feel like? Their weight against the floor. Just tune into the actual sensations coming from your feet and get curious about experiencing them in all their richness. Now, shifting awareness from your feet, pick a part of your body that just feels good or that feels neutral to you, that you wouldn't mind bringing awareness to. And focus on the sensations from that part of your body. It could be your hands or the movements of your breath, the feeling of your face. Just let those feelings support you in being aware and explore them. Get curious about what they are. Now, to move a little closer to our topic for today, notice, are you hungry in this moment or not? Get curious about how you know that you're not hungry, or how you know how hungry you are, what you might be hungry for. No need to analyze it, just experience it. And bring curiosity to notice what in your lived experience tells you that you're hungry or not right now. And often connected with that, what's your mood or emotion in the moment? Can you tune in to what you're feeling, whether you're calm or a little stressed out from the morning or about a meeting that's going to come up, or you're happy about something that went on, or just not much, just neutral mood. It could be anything. And get curious about what are you feeling and how do you know what your mood is in this moment, if indeed one is present. Now I'm going to invite you again to just let your mind and heart rest. Let go of the focus that we've been doing and just come into this moment knowing you're alive and aware. Just let yourself be for a moment. Okay. If your eyes are closed, you can let them gently open, maybe stretch a little bit, look around just to come back to our shared space here in this community of choice. John, I'll turn it back to you.
The first step in, let's say, updating behaviors, as you mentioned, is identifying the trigger. Am I correct that doing a mindfulness practice like the one that we just did, would that help us get better at identifying the triggers in our lives? Is that really at the heart of what we were doing just now?
So, the heart of what we're doing is just bringing curiosity to the present moment, which is required to know that there's a habit loop in action. And the idea of that curiosity is to take it from the trigger through the behavior to the reward. What do I get out of this? Reward may not be the result. To bring curiosity and mindfulness through that whole phase of the loop. So that's first gear, and that's the foundation for habit change. Because if we're running on automatic pilot, it doesn't give our brain the information it needs to shift where the habit is in what we're going to go into much more deeply next time, which is the reward hierarchy. Is the habit super pleasurable? Is it super unpleasant or somewhere in between? So, what we're doing is we're laying the foundation through mindfulness and curiosity to shift where that habit lays in the reward hierarchy. And first, we do that just by noticing what the trigger is, what the behavior is, and what's the result. We're not doing anything about it. We're just bringing mindfulness to the process. Does that answer your question?
It does. It was reminding me of in some of these frosty mornings we've been having. It's like I go to the windshield of the car and it looks like I can see through it, but then I realize I really have to scrape it. It feels like we're kind of scraping a little bit of the frost off the windshield here, so we can see better. Oh, well, what's coming at us and what we're going towards, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Kel, you mentioned this very common situation. I think myself and other folks would recognize, or maybe we reach for that bag of potato chips, or if you're me, the Oreos, and then you kind of just keep eating because it's providing a bit of a short-term fix for what I might be feeling, anxiety or whatever. I also gather, though, that food, especially certain foods, processed foods being some of them, are actually designed to keep us eating. Can meditation help us, or mindfulness help us to sort of hack into that systemized creation of food that might be designed to really just keep us reaching for more?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it can. Yeah. And the next two sessions we'll be really talking about how that happens. Today it's just bringing awareness to the patterns that we want to shift. But yes, Yeah, but knowing that the food industry is doing that should put us on our guard to know that we're one step down and that we need these techniques to level out the playing field so that we're not being manipulated in the same way.
You're telling
Um,
me those Oreos are not my friend. Is that
they're not your friend. No, no. Well, the people who designed the Oreos are not your friend.
so, Kel, I guess
Apologies to anybody in the food industry right now, but
let me just verify something, Kel. Now, it sounds like it's really the same brain mechanism that is underlying the creation of both good and bad habits. And I'm using those terms very broadly, good and bad. But it's not that habits themselves are bad, but rather how we allow the habit-forming mechanism in our brain to drive our lives. That's the important thing.
right.
Is that correct? And also, is the idea that we're replacing bad habits with good habits, that we're just sort of swapping one for the other?
Well, actually, the bad habits will fall away by the techniques that we're talking about. That's why I mentioned this approach we're taking does not use willpower. It's through awareness and curiosity and some of the skills that we'll be learning in the next two sessions that the habits will just spontaneously shift in the reward hierarchy when we really feel that they're not serving us. So why don't we go into the informal practice that I'm going to
Absolutely. Please.
suggest? Because this is what's going to carry you through the week and help lay the foundation for what we'll do in the next session. So when you feel the urge to eat, get curious about what's prompting that. Check in, is hunger present? What might be triggering the urge to eat? And what does it feel like to eat whatever you were going to eat mindfully? And then what's the result? How does it feel immediately after? How does it feel more long term afterwards? And I'm going to suggest that if you go to Dr. Judd's website, you can download the habit mapper that I showed you and actually, write this down on that, or in a notebook or a note-taking app on your phone. Write down the trigger, the behavior, and what the results are. Just a few words, phrases. This is really going to add power to what you do this week and really get you ready for the first session. This is all about being in first gear as opposed to not even starting the car. When we go through life mindfully, it's like we haven't even started the car. We want to start the car and get into first gear. And that's what we're beginning to do in this session.
Cal, it's
So,
beautiful. Yeah. And
yeah.
you're reminding me that it's a stepwise process. And I really appreciate that you are taking us into it so gently. I feel very supported in this journey. Speaking of which, Kel, there's no way I could be more grateful for your guidance today. It's been wonderful, and I can't wait to continue exploring this with you next week. Now, a final word before we go, if I may, from the late chef, author, raconteur, and world traveler Anthony Bourdain, who quipped, "The journey is part of the experience, an expression of the seriousness of one's intent. One doesn't take the A train to Mecca." Now, while Bourdain here was talking literally about journeying across a landscape from one place to another, it's equally valuable to keep in mind that the journey to change our habits is also not done overnight and requires a special, if ennobling, sense of intention. But we'll be there with you each step of the way. So we hope to see you again next week, folks. We'll be back here with Kell. Until then, please go forth and be excellent to one another.